Hello and welcome to week 6, our final week, finally the final week in our clinical psychology class. So I hope that you're ready for this final week. Just as a note, everything has to be turned in by Saturday. There's no extensions rule of the college. So let's be ready and go. So our to-do list this week. First of all, we have to read chapter 17. Clinical Child and Adolescent Psychology, Chapter 18, Health Psychology, and Chapter 19, Forensic Psychology. I have lots of experience in child play therapy, adolescent therapy, and as you can imagine, over the many years, I've also worked with adults, with families, with couples, and working with children is especially rewarding, I think. So when we're looking at psychological issues in childhood, let's take a look at this. So we have all kinds of, like the DSM-5 has obviously lots of information about the different children, and we can certainly have a whole class on childhood psychopathology. But the aspect that is brought up here in our reading first is resilience and vulnerability. In that when we're looking at a child, particularly adolescent included, we need to look also at environmental factors, parental factors, school factors, child internal factors. And so we need to kind of come up with a more comprehensive view. And so here we go. In terms of clinical and adolescent psychotherapy, there is a really great website resource, and that is the Search Institute. The Search Institute has done extensive research in regards to what you could consider resilience factors. Okay, so they call them developmental assets. And what you find here is they group them in external and internal assets. They talk about support, like family support, positive family communication, adult relationships, a caring neighborhood, caring schools, parental involvement in schooling. They talk about empowerment. And these are the ones I picked out, I think, are the adolescents, but they also have them for different age groups. So you might find that interesting. I think I'll put this resource into the announcement was the word I was looking for. At any rate, so then we have boundaries and expectations, family boundaries, school boundaries, neighborhood boundaries, adult role models, positive peer influence, etc., expectations, and constructive use of time. Then they have the internal assets, commitment to learning, and we have positive values, you can see here, social competencies, positive identity. And when I look at, these assets, I did research with it to see what kind of effect do these assets have in young people's lives. And so kind of sticking with adolescents right now, when you look at some of the insights that they found, this is a little bit blurry, I think, but I'll tell you, assets and risky behaviors among U.S. youth. And what they found, they did this over 3 years, and they found that youth who have high levels of developmental assets are much less likely to engage in a wide range of high-risk behaviors. So, for example, 0 to 10 assets, when you have, out of the 40 assets, if you only have 10, you have this level of risk. And in terms of high-risk behaviors, it goes down. There's obviously linear correlation. When we're looking, the more assets we have, the less high-risky behaviors we do. They also have, on the other hand, the more assets you have, the more thriving you experience. So here's the reverse, that the more assets we have, the better the thriving is. So I thought we find that interesting. As we're looking to our book, and we're looking at assessment of children and adolescents, you always have to keep in mind, of course, the developmental perspective. Where is this child in development? And that's, you have to see, like, the parent-child relationship or caregiver-child relationship, of course, really important. And the assessment, of course, has to be comprehensive if we're looking at this. So behavior rating scales of maybe the teacher, by the teacher, the parents, observations in the classroom, home visit, all kinds of, contextualization would be helpful. And as we are doing direct explorations and assessments with children, I found projective techniques relatively helpful, especially with younger children. So here is the, I found this website, it's Mind Resources Psychology, and they have the Roberts perception test for children here. It's the Roberts 2. And what they did here is they give you pictures of common situations in a child's life, and then they give you different formats, and you let the child respond to these pictures, and then you get a chance to interpret, how do they respond? How do they explain? What's the story that they tell you about this picture? And they have this different formats here. We have white children and adolescents, black children and adolescents. Then we have Hispanic children. We have black children and Hispanic children. I don't know what's the difference here. Maybe they're just more comprehensive. But at any rate, I found this really helpful. So that's a chance to get, the children, like a lot of children, adolescents are often too defensive. I know the book mentions the MMPI. Good luck with that for adolescents. I think it's got like 470 questions, and I've yet to find a adolescent who wants to take that test. So I think this kind of, situation, this kind of assessment helps build a positive relationship, as well as, getting some information that you need for your assessments. So in the discussion, you get a chance to talk about a couple, more prevalent disorders diagnosed in childhood. And then they also have an individual assignment about health psychology. And so you're supposed to create educational resources on a health condition to educate clients. So I think that's a creative assessment. And then, of course, you do have a final assignment here in the class, which is a final case presentation. You can do that either on a fictional character or a person that you know, but you have to, of course, be very careful with the confidentiality. And you're supposed to work up a presentation, a case presentation that you would present in a peer supervision group. And you're supposed to do that complete with case history and treatment. So that's a pretty comprehensive assessment. However, that's something, if you have weekly supervision and practice and clinical practice, you do this all the time. So hopefully this is useful. And as always, feel free to contact me with any questions or if you need some help, and I'll be happy to be there for you. Have a good last week, and see you at the other end.